What's up, everybody? It's Izzy, and in this video I want to talk about why I hired a powerlifting coach. So let's get away from the obvious appeals to authority here, even though they make a lot of sense, right? Like Tiger Woods has a coach for his golf swing. Michael Jordan had a basketball skills coach. His name was Tim Grover. He's actually written some really cool books. And Mike Tyson had a boxing coach, and I'm sure you guys can think of examples in sports that you follow of athletes that had skills coach. Now, in powerlifting, I get that it's a little bit different. I mean, for novices and intermediates, of course, that technical feedback is critical. It's very important. It's maybe the most important thing that their coach does for them. However, in advanced athletes who have developed a technical style over years and years, a coach really is only going to give them a couple cues here and there that can maybe make a subtle difference. But for the most part, when you hire a powerlifting coach, most people aren't really betting on, getting a bunch of technique fixes. They're doing it because they want programming from somebody else. So what I want to address in this video is just in terms of programming, what are the benefits of hiring a coach? Because theoretically, programming is strictly objective, right? It's numbers on a spreadsheet. It's, intensity, volume, frequency, and you manipulate those variables using the maths, and hopefully you get progress. But as we all know, it's not quite that simple. So in powerlifting, there are multiple paradigms for what is considered to be optimal training, right? There's like the West Side style, which is high variation, high intensity. There's things like the Bulgarian method, which is high intensity, high frequency, ultra high specificity. There's more of like the typical 70s and 80s American powerlifting approach, which is low frequency, higher intensity, but tons of bodybuilding work after the main lifts. And, nowadays there's more stuff like along the lines of Shako training, where you do very low average intensity per set, but you do just a crap load of volume. There's, like daily undulating periodization, which is highish frequency with very high volumes, pretty highly specific training, right? So all of these different paradigms invite certain biases to creep in. And ideally, you're going to hire a coach that has tools in his toolbox that you don't have, or at least that you've discarded for whatever reason, and it's just expanding the options that you have to fix problems. So for example, maybe the guy who's done nothing but West Side hires a coach, and his coach helps him build his base by introducing more sub-maximal volume work on the competition lifts. Maybe you get an RPE only guy who's done nothing but ultra specific training, and you get a coach that offers him some variations on the competition movements that bring up his specific weak points and enable him to progress faster. Maybe you get somebody who's left out accessory work, and the coach brings in some accessory work that really accelerates their hypertrophy gains, and all of a sudden they make new ground in their lifts. So what I'm trying to get at here is that ideally your coach is going to help you to see some of those blind spots that you've developed by sticking to your certain preferred paradigm of powerlifting. And instead of just sticking to that one paradigm, you can borrow aspects of every kind of effective training to make your progress, faster, better, more optimal. Now, I think the biggest reason, though, that people hire a coach in powerlifting is psychological. And what I mean by that is it's really easy for your emotions and ego to get in the way. Let's be honest, guys. It's just really easy for that to happen. Whether you're doing really good in training or really bad, I find that both of those can influence people to make bad decisions. It's easy when you're feeling great to go heavier than the plan calls for, especially when you're not accountable to anybody but yourself. And likewise, it's really easy to just change things when you're not feeling well. So powerlifting is a sport where the athlete's worth, at least within the context of the sport, is determined by an objective number of how much they can lift, right? So all of us have an ego around our numbers because that's what the sport is all about. And when the problem with that ego is that when you're making planning decisions for the training process, that creeps into your decision making. So instead of strictly making an objective decision of what's best for this athlete in the long term, it becomes a combination of what's best for this athlete in the long term and what will appease my ego in the short term. And anytime you have any of that going on, there's a possibility that you'll make a less than optimal choice just so that you can feel better about what's going on in your training. The great thing about a coach is that they are not invested in how much you can lift. Their investment is in making sure that you progress because that's what you're paying them to do, and that's the only way they're going to keep you as a client is if you're making progress. So there's just a lot more objectivity for them there. It helps eliminate the ego and those emotions, and what it really does is it allows the athlete to just focus on performance. It takes the planning process out of their hands, makes it so that they don't have to sit there and wonder constantly if they're doing things correctly, and they just focus on lifting the weights and getting shit done. And to me, that's a huge part of being an athlete, is just going out there, not thinking, doing your job well. Anyways, guys, that's why I hired a coach. His name is Joe Sullivan. He's from Elite FTS. He's a super strong guy. He's recently squatted 880 in training, which is 400 kilos. I'm going to put a link to his Instagram if you guys want to find out more about him in the description box. And as always, my friends, good luck with your training and have a nice day. Peace.